Bien, saludos a todos, bienvenidos. Ya mismito estaremos con ustedes en retransmisión con NASA. Gracias. Bien, saludos a todos, bienvenidos a este evento. Ya pronto vamos a dar comienzo en unos 8 minutos. Ya estamos en conexión directa con NASA. Esperamos pues que la comunicación se sostenga. Agradeceremos, ¿verdad?, que tengan en consideración el que estamos transmitiendo a través de una retransmisión en vivo a través del sistema virtual, por lo cual es posible que la comunicación se mantenga, pero de no ser así, pues le agradezco su comprensión. Esperamos que disfruten de este evento. Bienvenidos a todos. Muy especial, quiero darle un saludo en lo que comienza el evento a nuestras autoridades académicas, a nuestros estudiantes, a nuestros compañeros de facultad. Esperamos que disfruten de este evento. También a las personas que se unen de la comunidad en general. Bienvenidos a todos. Que disfruten este evento. Ok, voy a quedar por aquí atento a tan pronto nos llegue señal de NASA. Gracias.
Please continue to stand by. Your conference call will begin momentarily. Once again, please continue to stand by. Your conference call will begin momentarily. Thank you, and please continue to hold. Welcome and thank you for standing by. At this time, all participant lines are in a listen-only mode and will be for the duration of today's conference call. Today's conference call is being recorded. If you have any objections to this, you may disconnect at this time. Now, I would like to turn the call over to your host for today, Mr. Gray Wataloma. Sir, you may begin.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone, to today's Science Town Hall. Today's call will be led by Dr. Thomas Zurbuchen, the head of NASA's Science Mission Directorate. And also with us, we've got presentations from Paul Hertz, the head of the Astrophysics Division, Amber Kaufman, our Earth Science Division Director, acting, Steve Clark, the Deputy Associate Administrator for Exploration and Science, Nikki Fox, the head of the Heliophysics Division, and Lori Glaze, head of the Planetary Science Division. There are charts posted at science.nasa.gov. So if you want to follow along with those, please go there and just click on the link and open them. There's also a link to ask questions or vote up the existing list of questions. And we're going to get to as many of those as possible after we go through the charts. Some of those questions will have been answered during the presentation, but we will do our best to get to a broad spectrum of things that you guys were talking about. There's going to be a replay of this call available and a recording posted later in the day to science.nasa.gov. I'll repeat that information at the end of the call. And at this point, I'll turn it over to Thomas to begin.
So thanks so much, Gray. And please remind me that if I forget to put the slide numbers, just chime in quickly, Gray. I'd really appreciate that. Sometimes I get in the flow, and I really appreciate it. I want to make sure that everybody can follow along. I'm on slide one, and of course, you know who I am. I just want to remind you that we made a commitment when we went on this COVID paused kind of break of going to work on a day-to-day basis, and in fact working from our own respective homes, that we would be up to date. We've done that at first in our town hall, and then you heard our division directors in their respective community meetings during Space Week giving updates. We're doing an update now, and you should expect on a timescale of 6 weeks or so, kind of the next updates. You should just know that we'll continue talking to you. Again, I want to recognize that we're all in a difficult situation, and this has been complex for all of us. It's affecting us personally. It's affecting you. Our way it affects us depends strongly on who we are, who our family is, and the situation we're in. And I just want to tell you that from our science leadership, many of the leaders, of course, you're going to hear about, we think about you, and we really valuing that many of you have reached out to us and explained to us what is on your minds and put on our radar what is there. What I'm going to do on slide 2 is talk about Demo 2, because there's no talk at NASA this week without Demo 2. I just want to tell you that I, together with the millions of people, sat there and was eagerly awaiting the countdown. I just want to tell you how proud I am of the team, NASA and SpaceX, coming together for that historic mission that we've been waiting for 9 years or so, historic mission that is currently planned for Saturday. The countdown went really well. That's for those of us who are on many launches, we know that is showing great preparation and also kind of the health of the project. We're just so optimistic. We're so excited about this launch happening on Saturday or whenever it's safe. The fact that the scrub happens the way it did shows that the system is working. That's exactly the way it worked. The priority of these of that launch is and remains that the safety of the astronauts on board. So I just want to shout out to our HEO friends. We're cheering for them, and I know I speak for so many of you that the excitement that we have for this milestone as we go forward. I want to talk about slide 3 and tell you what the 4 things I want to talk to you about. The first one is just going to take an update on status, give some highlights, things, then focus on changes in people and kind of opportunities relative to jobs. And I want to talk about one element that is we're launching today, which is the science plan, kind of our cross-cutting strategy that's talking about kind of what we're focused on and kind of for what you should expect of us as a team going forward. With that, I'm going to go to slide 4, and basically I'm talking about, of course, the state that that each one of the centers is. We recognize that there's a lot of work that happens in the science program at NASA that is not at NASA centers. But the part that is at NASA centers is by these, is described by these levels. We reminded you before that level 4 is the most restrictive of the levels, whereas 3 is less. So headquarters, by the way, is at stage 3. And really, NASA leadership has developed agency guidance that takes into account the guidelines provided by the White House, and also, frankly, the local, guidelines and so forth, and call to really get ready for controlled, methodological, and flexible return to site work. So I'm really excited that's what today. Again, these things are changing. Actually, not as much. We've kind of been here for a while, and I think see some of these changes of levels as we go forward, and the numbers are going down in areas. Again, a lot of consideration is given to safety of these NASA colleagues and partners, as well as their environments they live in. Slide 5 is the framework that we've already shown in the previous meeting, and really what I'd like to focus on is specifically on meetings and events and travel, and remind you that when we think about meetings and events, we also think about reviews. Many of you who are not directly involved or do not have a NASA badge, of course, you're a very important part of our community as well. And these reviews, of course, in stage 4 and stage 3 are virtual, you see, and we have basically suspended travel under stage 4 and mission critical travel only under stage 3. But even as we go forward, we basically realize that the test for whether we do a meeting is, of course, going to be different as we go to stages. But you should expect as we go forward that, for example, reviews are going to continue for the time being through September, kind of in this remote mode. We know that the efficiency is not 100% of that. We know there's benefit from seeing you face-to-face. At the same time, frankly, we're also learning about how to do this, and I'm just so proud of everybody, including you all there, who have helped us put the shoulder to the wheel and helping us. You see many more pieces of information on here, but I'm not going to talk more, but move forward to slide 6, which talks about the missions and development. Remember, when we talked about it last time, we talked about how really Mars 20 Perseverance and WED are the missions, together with some activities that are emergency focused, and the operational missions are kind of the ones that we do under stage 4, and that's what we're going forward. I want to give you an update of where we are right now with all of these missions. Again, what we're showing here is a return to site for the NASA centers only. And of course, there's much more information that we have in our minds, and the division directors, if you have questions, can give you more information. Because any green here doesn't mean that all work happens, but some work happens and to a varied level. But you see that work at stage 4, they're still there going forward. I'm going to talk a little bit about that later. In green, you have W first and the chronograph as well as IXT and other activities there in green. Sophia getting ready to start flying again. The FLIPS missions. You see some of them are in yellow because we already are in negotiations with our friends at the centers that basically said, look, we're going to get started with these, and we're basically moving that towards kind of a package that goes through the approval. Again, in every case, when this happens, we want to make sure that the new missions do not in any way jeopardize the other ones, and we look at it comprehensively from the point of view of safety for everybody. The green ones were not requested to work on site right now for multiple reasons. In many cases, it's not needed because their key work is either not at NASA or is not currently requiring hands-on work, right? And so that's where we are right now. The most important part of that slide, of course, slide 6 is the date, because that's where we are at this moment in time, and it is bound to change as we go forward, either up or down, depending on how things roll forward time. But that's the update on the mission. So if you look at the impact to date, and I'm talking about slide 7 now, I want to make sure that you know that disruption and impact of the COVID-19 continues to be on the duration and impact of these disruptions continue to be uncertain still. We're learning more, but we're still at uncertainty, especially projects and formulation things, but not all S&D activities are affected, and in many ways, through inefficiencies or otherwise, sometimes, we have to slow something down a little, like certainly in the past, because we wanted to be sure that we had personal protective equipment, the PPE there for both NASA and our industrial partners. When that was really tight, that was really important to us that we did make those decisions in context of that, as well as other things that are there and are bulleted here. At this moment in time, we have the interagency partnership missions are continuing with most work with minimal impact to date. Thanks for our contractors who are doing just amazing work here. Minimal impact to Mars 2020 Perseverance. Preparations, of course, continue at NASA's Kennedy Space Center for launch, and just so great to see this hardware come together. You see our social media feeds with the pictures every once in a while I release. The James Webb Telescope status. It's true, and we talked about that, the NASA portion of our team, a significant fraction of that returned back in mid-March. The IT and Northrop Grumman had reduced shifts. The observatory is continuing to make progress, also at a slightly lower speed. It's going really well. Also there, you see some of these kind of history-making progress pictures that are out there. For example, the telescope will fold it up, and of course, we're in discussion as the environment is changing in California, and then Maryland and so forth, about what that means for this operational missions. That's really, for me, it's one of the things that I just want to stress. We have not lost any data really since the COVID issues, which is not telling you that it wasn't hard, but it tells you about the heroic efforts that were there. Frankly, I was so excited about that. I actually asked to talk to our colleagues in Spain who really excelled together with many others at JPL and in Australia and beyond. I just want to tell you that the work these friends have done for these missions, our colleagues out there running these ground-based systems as well as running the spacecraft just did an amazing job. Largely speaking, our spacecraft in orbit have not noticed that something is going on Earth. So we have mitigation plans and in place that have allowed us flexibility, and also we have those mitigation plans in case something happens that we still have. We're in the middle of this situation in many of these locations. So make no mistake, we're watching it. We talked about the airborne assets in place to assist Mars 2020. but also as well for disaster relief. So that's where we are on the impacts to date. I'm going to talk about slide 8. You may or may not have seen the news. I just want to tell you how proud I'm of the JPL Vital team, the Ventilator Intervention Technology Accessible Locally team, Vital, which is a new high-pressure ventilator developed by NASA engineers and tailored to the COVID patients, and it was approved to some level for the FDA in April 30, 2020. And the license is being offered for free to manufacturers through the Technology Transfer Office of Caltech, which manages the IT there at JPL for NASA. And, each one of these people have names on there. Brandon, Jonas, Sue, Michael, Dave, Michelle, Patrick, they're all there. And I just want to see, together with our team, we've seen you and where you made us extremely proud for what you did, friends. And there's so many others that I can show you a picture that, across NASA, and I'm sure across the places where you work, that just do amazing work. I just want to talk about people who don't just do space work, but also really bring their skill to bear for the challenge that we're in. I want to talk about slide 9 now, where we talk about RNA. Many of you are writing proposals and going forward. We're in the middle of finalizing a process to provide limited adjustments for existing grants. Needless to say, we want to keep moving the RNA program forward because it's not in the interest of our friends, especially soft money, colleagues all over the country, that we stop our kind of RNA process. So we want to go forward. That means that not all grants can be made whole. So just be aware of that. The focus will be on mitigating the impacts of this epidemic to the most vulnerable, grad students, postdocs, and early career researchers, soft money positions. And SMD does not want this to be the off-ramp of many of these future leaders that have gone through the rigorous training that so many of you have gone through with your PhDs, postdocs, and also other related careers. We want to make the details public by the end of June. Do talk to us. Many of you have, if there are certain considerations that are there. And SMD is also considering options that recently graduated PhDs and postdoc whose appointments are ending on whether to expect freeze in hiring by many research institutes. It's a really good that I talk, and I want to thank the academic leaders who are talking to us, not just to me, but my friends who are on the call and others. We recognize that this has impacts in public and private universities, and where so many of you work, and also other soft money organizations. And we are really going to come up with deliberate tools, both on a grant-by-grant basis, which is the nature tool at first, but also for the dedicated tool, which is the second bullet. So I thank you, those of you who have provided information from the need to do so. We talked about review panels already. We expect to be the norm, to be in remote until at least September. And frankly, just want to tell you, I want to know which ones we need to go back. We are to a face-to-face way. There are advantages of this. And the NSF has done a really good job, I believe, investigating that as well. To what extent do we need to change to a more remote for a variety of reasons, including that, it's better for our world. NASA's implementation of the guidance of managing grants is almost specific to the last time I provided it here. I want to thank Michael New, by the way, who's my deputy for research, who's done just a really good job and being your advocate in our meetings. So I just really want to thank him for that. With that, I'm going to go to slide 10, which is the second to that topic. Several ROSE's due dates have been moved based on community comments. ESD is working to resolve the pile-up of 3 ROSE solicitations on the same focus areas. Cryo science must already be delayed. So we keep, I hope the pattern that we see, we keep listening to you while making sure that the strategic objectives of a healthy field, as best as we can, is going forward. As we said, planetary science and astrobiology decadal survey has started. The white papers due date have moved to July 4th, and really then move later. If you have questions, we may address that later. PSC Early Career Workshop was conducted virtually, and sessions on the results of planetary mission concept studies also conducted virtually. Several hundred individuals attended. Thanks for all of you who are there. We're excited. I think I speak for Lori and myself, about the appointment of the two co-chairs of the planetary table, Robin and Phil. I know both of them for many years. One of them more theory-focused, the other one more experimental focused, one of them more in a university, the other more in a research institution without educational objectives. And, just in general, I think they just look like an amazing team to do this important work as we're going forward. So thanks to the Academy for these appointments. The astrophysics decadal survey is proceeding with the final report to do until we think in spring 21. So that's where we are on this one. And then slide 11 is really focused on 1 and 12 in both cases are focused on Earth science specific things. Remember, the Earth is in a unique state right now, and we want to learn everything we can from this unique state about our complex planet, our beautiful home that we so appreciate. The rapid proposals are an opportunity that Earth Science made available. That is, details are there, addresses underline, research underlying the physical, biological, and applied science-related topics characterizing impacts and decisions for efforts to inform decision makers on this. And you basically see there's a rolling deadline with over 100 inquiries, over 30 proposals were received already, 7 selections to date. That's one augmentation, and basically what we're trying to do is focus this, and I think the Earth Science team, Sandra, whole team, did just an amazing job. Jack, of course, also. The period of performance, 12 months or less, very much focused, and basically we go forward. You see the contact there, Laura, one of our superstars, really excited for that. Slide 12 is on our Space Apps Challenge. That the first thing I want to do is thank all the universities that have signed up teams that are there. Frankly, we're in record territory. The hackathon, of course, is May 30, 31, 9 a.m. local time start time. Target audience is the global community. With at this moment in time, well, when I asked the last time, 8,100 teams registered and climbing. The registration is still there. I think it's just amazing to have the innovation of our hackers, the ingenuity of our creative students and professionals kind of coming and doing this, and also in various institutions and age groups to do this. And that forum is right there. Has been customized for this. What's really new with besides the focus on COVID is the partners that we have done, we have signed up. UFA, JAXA, France, CNAS, Canada, CSA have signed up. We're just so excited. Kind of as we're on this planet together, we recognize the unifying power of science and innovation coming together. And that hackathon is just Space Apps Challenge here is just really a sign of that. So the challenges are 4 of them. As indicated here, I'm not going to go into detail. So look at these URLs, or we'll send them to your creative students if you have not done so. As I said, there's still time left. So I'm done with the first topic, which are the status. And what I'm going to do now is talk about the highlights, the division highlights. And I think Gray already introduced our friends who are going to speak. And so, Paul, I'm just going to kick it to you for slide 15. Go ahead.
Thank you, Thomas. This is Paul Hurst, Director of Astrophysics. A few exciting highlights from recent times. We made our next selections in the Explorers program. We picked 4 projects to go through the competitive Phase A mission concept phase, and at the end of which we will do a down select. The 2 full SMEX missions that we selected are COSY, which John Tomzik at Berkeley is the PI of, and ESCAPE, which Kevin France at Colorado is the PI of. And what's interesting is that both of these proposals have come out of successful projects in our suborbital program. So picked 2 mission of opportunity proposals to do Phase A, Dorado with Brad Finko at Goddard, and LEAP with Mark McConnell at New Hampshire. We recently celebrated the 30th anniversary of the launch of the Hubble Space Telescope. We converted the entire celebration to a virtual celebration. And if you feel like continuing to celebrate, I encourage you to Google what did Hubble see on your birthday? And go and enter your birth date. No need to enter the year you were born. And you can get a Hubble image that was taken on your birthday. The TESS mission continues to survey the sky for newly discovered transiting exoplanets. Recently, TESS discovered 4 planets orbiting the nearby sun-like star HD 108236. And what's exciting about this is that these planets may very well be some of the best planets situated for follow-up transit spectroscopy by the James Webb Space Telescope. Speaking of the Webb Space Telescope, we continue to make progress towards launch next year. Recently, Webb was successfully folded into its launch configuration for the first time. That's what the top image is. It's Webb all folded up exactly as it will be for launch. The next step for Webb will be for this complete observatory to undergo its environmental testing, after which we'll do one final unfold, deploy, and then we'll fold it up to launch for real and ship it off to the launch site. And then, very exciting, we have named the W-FIRST satellite. The W-FIRST new name is the Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope. So Roman will be our next great observatory after Webb. Nancy Grace Roman was a pioneer at NASA. She joined NASA in the first year of its existence. She was the first chief of astronomy at NASA. She was the first female executive at NASA and established space astronomy as a field and established NASA as a world leader in space astronomy. And through decades of work, she made sure that the Hubble Space Telescope happened, would set the ground for all of the great observatories that followed. So we're really pleased with this naming of the Roman Space Telescope. I'm now going to pass it over to Sandra Coffin to give you highlights from Earth Science.
Thank you so much, Paul. So on Earth Science, testing for Sentinel-6, Michael Freilich has continued virtually and with the help from the RJPL 10. And in Germany, Airbus has continued perfecting the satellite for launch this November. So we are very excited. Things so far seem to be going on track for this launch. Then the SNOX campaign completed the second field airborne campaign. And SNOX is an airborne campaign to address important gaps in the snow remote sensing. So even with all that we have ongoing, they were able to complete this second campaign. Then we have been using information from all of our Earth, also working with our international partners, and surface sensors, computer-based data sets, and everything at our disposal. Study the environmental, economic, and societal impacts of COVID and what we can see. But we're also trying to determine whether environmental factors influence the spread of the virus. And of course, as Thomas said, we have the call for the rapid response proposals. We have received many responses, and we are grateful about the excitement of trying to study these aspects as they are happening and as they are evolving real time. So we're going to continue analyzing this data for many months and many years to come. It seems that way. And then on the awards area, very, very exciting. We have a Webby winner. The NASA Explorers Prior, a video series, was a Webby winner for this episode 7 featuring NASA Above campaign. Above is the Arctic boreal vulnerability experiment, and it's to study the environmental change and its implications for societal ecological systems. And it's being conducted in Alaska and Western Canada. Also, we received the People's Voice Winner Award for the NASA's Global Climate Change website. In addition, we have Claire Parkinson, one of the scientists at Goddard Space Flight Center, who was nominated for the Samuel Award. This is the 2020 Samuel J. Hyman service to American medal. And she has been nominated, and she is going head-to-head along with 4 others for this Paul Faulkner Career Achievement category. So let's root for Claire Parkinson. And with that, I am going to hand it over to Steve Clark.
Thank you, Sandra. And good afternoon, everyone. My name is Steve Clark. I'm the Deputy Associate Administrator for Exploration. And I am managing the Exploration Science Strategy and Integration Office. That may be a new term for some of you. We are responsible for executing the Lunar Discovery and Exploration Program, but we also coordinate and work very closely with our sister mission directorates in NASA and international partners as well. The first virtual lunar surface science workshop is being conducted today, and it will go through tomorrow. This workshop is very important in that it's focusing on the science that will be enabled by our human exploring crews, starting with Artemis 3. We were going to have a face-to-face meeting in Denver at the end of April, but of course with the COVID-19 impacts, we had to quickly change this into a virtual workshop. And we are working this workshop in collaboration with our Human Exploration Operations Mission Directorate and our Space Technology Mission Directorate. 600 registrants for this workshop, very encouraging. And I did some of the keynote kickoff talks earlier today, and I understand the meetings are going very well and breaking out into focus area sessions this afternoon and tomorrow. For the next instrument call for our commercial lunar payload services, the payloads and research investigations on the surface of the moon, or PRISM, we received 239 RFI responses to our stage 1 call, which we were very pleased to get that robust of a response. And this is for lunar surface payloads coming in from the various science divisions and the communities, our human exploration colleagues and space technology mission directorate colleagues. So we're in the process now of developing stage call that will most likely come out in the July timeframe. And when we receive those responses, then we are looking to award development of those instruments and technology development, technology demonstration payloads for the next 3 CLPS lunar deliveries. So that's an effort, and please stay tuned for the stage 2 notice that will be coming out here soon. Also, we completed the first cross-directorate memorandum of agreement on a joint petition with Eclipse Delivery Service, and we expect we'll be doing more of these. In this case, our Space Technology Mission Directorate colleagues were interested in obtaining propulsion data from intuitive machines, which will be flying to the lunar surface next year with some of our science instruments and technology demonstration payloads. And so we're seeing increased E and HEO to utilize the CLPS delivery services. So we'll see more of those in the future. And then finally, the LRO has successfully adapted to this COVID-19 environment we've been operating in now without any loss of science objectives. So kudos to the LRO team for continuing to work that. One last thing I did not have on the slide is the Viper delivery, and I think Lori Glaze is going to be talking a little bit more about Viper. We are on the cusp of awarding the delivery service for the Viper rover, and so you'll be hearing more about that here in June. So stay tuned for that. And with that, I will turn it over to Nikki Cox for heliophysics.
Thanks so much, Steve. And so it's my pleasure to brief chart 18 with some of the updates of things that have been going on in heliophysics. So one of the things we did was we recently selected the first 2 scientific investigations to fly on Gateway in support of the Artemis mission. We were delighted that heliophysics was asked to provide one of those instrument suites. And so we have provided a package that is called Hermes, that is the Heliophysics Environment Radiation Monitoring Experiment Center. suite. And so we're excited about that package. I did have the honor of having the top-ranked question in the list, so I thought I would go ahead and answer it since it was directly related to Hermes, which was how did we do the selection. We had about just over 2 months to be able to put together this and tell our colleagues in EOMD what the package was going to be. And so given such a short time, we actually solicited proposals from Goddard and APL, encouraging them. We did a review of those proposals.
Nikki, you're kind of fading out. Could you maybe repeat your last couple of things?
Based on criteria and also their accommodation constraints. It very much constrained what we could do. We had to deliver them very, very quickly. They actually need to be delivered by November of 2021, so we needed very high heritage food. So what we did was we selected a package and directed the management of the program to Goddard. And so that's how we put together Hermes. The other highlight...
Nikki, you're kind of fading out. Could you do something to adjust your mic?
Science investigation campaign to date. On May 9th, they were able to switch on all of the instruments and go into a wonderful suite in perihelion. They will actually meet... Sorry, I'm hearing that it's very quiet. Hopefully that is better. Sorry for that. The Parker Solar Parade began...
Nikki, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Could you do a one-sentence summary of how did you get to Hermes? Because the moment you started talking and all the people who wanted to know the answer, you say that answer. Just do the one-sentence version and then go back.
Absolutely. Yes, I'm so sorry. I hate technology sometimes. Anyway, yes, we did. We had to do a very quick solicitation. We had just over 2 months from when HERE let us know they'd like a package for us to let them know what that package is going to be. So right before Christmas, we solicited proposals from Goddard and from APL, encouraging them to partner. There were some constraints, accommodation constraints. We also needed very high heritage instruments because the package has to be delivered by November of 2021. So we did select a suite based on those criteria and directed the management of the package to Goddard Space Flight Center. And there were some community reviewers involved in the selection, but it was all turned around very quickly to everybody who jumped on that opportunity. So we can indeed fly Hermes on the first module of the Gateway. The second thing I was going to talk about was Parker Solar Probe. She has begun the longest science observation campaign beginning on May 9th, 2020. And it's because as we come out, we're going to be doing a Venus flyby, the third Venus flyby, which gives us a great opportunity to close the link for a long period of time with the spacecraft and download lots and lots of data. So we'll actually go all the way through June 28th. Much, much longer than the mission's normal 11-day encounters. So that perihelion is next weekend. Oh, actually, no, sorry, June 10th, I think it is. And then another thing that we did since our last town hall was we selected a mission of opportunity. This was under the SMEC 2016 call. Sunrise was in an extended phase A. They gave us an updated proposal and met all the criteria, and we were delighted to be able to welcome them to the heliophysics portfolio. Sunrise is 6 CubeSats that together form kind of one giant radio antenna in space, and Sunrise will study how the sun generates and releases huge space weather storms. And so we're very excited about that. The PI for that is Justin Casper. And I will also give a shout out to my team because this was the first time we had done a selection completely virtually. So really well done to them for that. And with that, it's my pleasure to hand over to Laurie Glaze, who hopefully will not have audio problems like I did and can tell you all about planetary.
Thank you, Nikki. Let's hope. So we're now on slide 19. I'm Lori Glaze. I'm the director of the Planetary Science Division. And as you heard at the beginning of this presentation from Thomas, the March 2020 rover mission is one of the missions that was given the go-ahead to continue working even at the highest stages of the COVID-19 response. Of course, we have taken many, many steps to ensure the health and safety of all of the personnel who did have requirements to actually work on site at JPL and at the Kennedy Space Center, where the final integration. A lot of efforts put into the safe at work practices for those individuals. But the work there is continuing on schedule, and we are on track for launch in July. And as you no doubt know, the Perseverance rover is the mission that will be the first step, very important step in the Mars sample return that will land in Jezero Crater and collect samples for future return by Mars sample return. So we're very, very excited. We've got all of the critical hardware is at Kennedy Space Center. It's in the process of being integrated and stacked. And we, as I said, are completely on track for launch, and the window will open on July 17th. So please pay attention for that. Going along with the Mars rover, of course, is a helicopter. And that helicopter is a technology demonstration. This will be the first time flight has ever been demonstrated, aerial flight on another planet. And so this is really exciting. And just in the last few weeks, the helicopter received a name. It will now be called Ingenuity, and that name comes from a student that is a high school student from Alabama. And we really appreciate her ingenuity in coming up with this perfect name to go along with the Perseverance rover. Also, this happened in the last couple of weeks is OSIRIS-REx, the mission that is currently at the asteroid Bennu, has been doing reconnaissance there now for over a year in preparation for collecting a sample to bring back to Earth. And just back in March, we did the checkpoint rehearsal, which is the first major test of the process that they will use in going in and taking the sample from the surface. Following that checkpoint rehearsal, we just had the operational decision point number 2, which is the point where Thomas, the AA, gave the go-ahead to the team to proceed forward with the next rehearsal, which is called the match point rehearsal, where they get even closer to the surface and really test out their natural feature tracking software. That will happen in August, and assuming all of that goes well, they will move forward with the touch-and-go tag event, where they'll actually touch the surface of Bennu, collect that sample, and then we'll determine whether we've collected enough sample and decide if it's time to come back home. Steve Clark mentioned the Viper mission. The Viper mission, of course, is a rover that builds on the investments that were in Operations Directorate on the resource prospector. And Steve Clark and his office have made significant efforts over the last couple of years to ensure that investment could continue as the Viper mission. We're now managing that mission out of Planetary Science Division with some enhancements over the resource prospector, which allows enhanced capabilities to allow the rover to have a longer lifetime on the surface. This is going to be the first resource mapping mission on the surface of another celestial body. And Viper is going to map out the distribution of water and other volatiles, ice and other volatiles on the moon, helping us answer some key science questions regarding the evolution of the moon and the Earth. Currently, the current schedule has it launching in 2023. As Steve mentioned, his office is in the process of selecting the CLIPS delivery. That should be announced, as you said, very, very soon. Thomas also mentioned that our planetary science and astrobiology decadal survey co-chairs have been named by the National Academies. Likewise, they're very, very complement each other extremely well and are going to do an outstanding job of leading this next decadal survey. So very, very happy about that. And then I also wanted to mention that we have a new assessment group within the Planetary Science Division. For many years, we've had most of our community represented by some assessment group, Venus, outer planets, Mars, small bodies, etc., the moon. But Mercury has kind of not had a home, and so we finally have been able to establish the Mercury Exploration Assessment Group. I'm proud to announce that Steve Hauk is the chair, the inaugural chair of this group, and we'll be looking for inaugural members for this assessment group steering committee. So keep your eyes and ears out for that going forward. And with that, I'm going to toss it back to Thomas.
Thanks, Lori. This is Gray again real quick. I just wanted to remind everybody that the charts are at science.nasa.gov. If you have not had a chance to click on those to be able to follow along, they are going to be there, and there will be a recording of this posted a little later this afternoon. Go ahead, Thomas.
That's great. What I'm going to do, looking at the time, I think I'm going to close this up in 5 minutes just to make sure we spend time on Q&A. Is that okay, Gray?
That sounds good.
All right. So what I'm going to do is talk quickly about some, people-related issues, and I'm going to start with slide 21. You've seen that effective June 8th, 2020, we'll welcome Dr. Karen St. Germain as the Director of Earth Science. She's currently at NOAA as an executive there and has experience across several agencies, and we look forward to have her join our team. I want to thank, of course, Sandra Kaufman for her leadership during this entire last year, and also her important work as a deputy long before that. And she took on a challenging role and really kept us on track in Earth Science. I also want to thank Dr. Paula von Tempe, who served as a deputy director. I want to congratulate Paula. We've seen that Paula was recently announced as the Dean of the Ocean Science School at University of Rhode Island. So, Dean of Rhode Island, congrats, Paula. Just going to miss her, but just really so the work she has done here, but how excited we are also for the University of Rhode Island and all its people. I want to thank you from the S&D, and I'm on slide 22 now. Steve Clark, you just heard him. He's, of course, the Deputy Associate Administrator for Exploration. He will transition into his new role as Aeronautics Associate Administrator in mid-June. So Steve has had multiple jobs within science, and the way we want to always build our teams, that any one of us is leaving the place in a much better place than it was before, and Steve just scores, amazingly in this. The team that he has built from scratch there, and we talked about, is just in great shape going forward. Brett Tupper is the most important guy you don't know about, or you don't know him personally, many of you. He's the head of the director of the Resource Management Division, and it's also another name in. He's retiring almost after 33 years on that position. The best of luck. Correct, just has been an amazing, just kind of really the passion for NASA with a passion for science. And he's going to be very much missed, but also there we have an amazing team ready to a team that he helped train. We'll talk about 23. I'll tell you that we're really excited about summer interns. They will not look the same as they have in the past, but we have moved to a virtual mode, and that's allowed us to increase the number of available internships. So I think I'm really proud that can happen. We're aware of so many of these internships disappear among our students, and so we have increased that, and these often life-changing experiences. We look forward to that, these productive and positive internships as a pathway to recruiting for them into the NASA community as a whole, not necessarily just the NASA, but the whole community, which includes many of you as well. Let's talk about slide 24. There's a new opportunity for Deputy Associate Administrator of Programs. There's recruitment. There's USA Jobs, works with senior leadership, ensure programs and projects are organized and conduct for safety and success. Like so often, like all of these jobs, in our front office, we compete them, and we compete as broadly as possible. And here's the information, should you be interested. I want to talk to you also on slide 25 of an opportunity that may be speaking to some of you, and that is for multiple S&D program sign-ups and NASA headquarters coming in June. We'll work as part of the diverse and agile team that we're seeking to build here in all of our domains, and have these characteristics that are there because they're so deeply involved with the proposal review and really spending our money on RNA, the taxpayer, that is, on RNA, and has a broad responsibility for advancing NASA science portfolio. These will show up. Talk to the division director, to your contacts at headquarters for the specifics will grow up and be ready for that before I close up. Please submit your application. We're always excited to have talented colleagues join us. And to talk about the science plan, but as I said, only in a couple minutes. I'm on slide 27. So we're releasing the science plan today, which is really a vision for scientific excellence. It's for 5 years. That's out there. Basically, we've developed that in close collaboration with so many stakeholders across NASA and beyond to really lay out an ambitious program for the next 5 years that really, if you want, tie together what we hear from the academy, which are very much focused on a single discipline. We're demonstrated commitment to excellence across S&D portfolio through leadership and strategic engagement with partners. And we consulted with many groups, including the NAC Science Committee and an ad hoc committee by the Space Studies Board to validate that approach. So we'll continually assess their progress for transparency and accountability. Just to give you a hint for it on slide 28, we have focused on our vision, mission, our values, and also explain how we think about that safety, teamwork, integrity, leadership, and excellence, and also focused on kind of elements in which our strategies are focused against the science of what we do is, of course, in the decade, or how we do it, and through the exploration, scientific discovery, through continuing innovation and interconnectivity and partnership and inspiration. They're all part of our strategic framework we're going forward. Some words to more details are provided on slide 29. I don't want to spend time right now, and I really hope you look at it, and perhaps we'll come back to it in a future meeting. Suppose we're successful at this. Slide 30 gives us the future state that we're looking at. And to implement recommendations of the decadal survey in concert with national priorities and needs through creative partnership models that go beyond traditional ways of developing and executing missions. We want to challenge assumption of what is technically feasible and enable revolutionary science discoveries with a deliberate focus on innovation, experimentation, and cross-disciplinary research. Deliberate is the word here. Create a more collaborative culture within S&D and across science community, encouraging diversity of thought, sharing best practices, informed risk-taking, and improve operations. Develop future leaders and inspire learners of all ages, new opportunities, and hands-on experience, recognizing that so many of these leaders do not perhaps look exactly like us. They don't have the same background as us. We want to build that, so we want to have leaders from all backgrounds. Again, the full document, you're always put it there, and I really hope you read it and understand these priorities and how we continue to interact with it. Maybe, as always, your feedback is appreciated. Great. Giving it to you now.
Okay, thanks, Thomas. We've got quite a few questions submitted, so we will dive right into them. I think this is probably for you, Thomas. The next one after Nikki's question about Hermes. Are there plans to mitigate the effects of the pandemic on disproportionately affected groups such as working mothers and parents, early career scientists and students, etc.? I know we've talked a little bit about that, but if you want to say anything more.
Well, I wanted to say that in general, right, is yes. I already talked about some elements of our community that is focused there in the question, right? It's mentioned there. I want to tell you that we're still learning. I mean, like many of you have learned about how so many of our female colleagues are much more affected by this than our male colleagues. Understandably, or many people think it's because, of course, and kind of if you just look across it, that kind of our female colleagues so often end up with more of a life-changing working with, and handling children and kind of work around the house than their male counterparts. And so we often go deliberately. So we are, looking at these inputs. Again, we welcome your feedback directly because we want to, it's on our radars. We want to figure out also how we make those impacts, kind of how we handle those impacts in a fair way going forward. So we've already talked about some of them, the graduating PhDs, the lab worker, kind of the postdoc that could not do her work because the lab was closed and so forth. These were already working on specific plans. The others as we're learning, we're going to add and are going to focus on them deliberately. Again, provide more feedback. I agree.
Okay, thanks. Lori, do you want to talk a little bit about how the epidemic is affecting the planetary decadal?
I do. Thank you, Gray. And so I know that the pandemic is placing stress on everyone. And I know it's a question on everybody's mind as far as will there be any adjustments made to the planetary and science and astrobiology decadal survey. I want everybody to know that I've been having very frequent conversations with the national academies, and we're working together to try and accommodate these stresses as best as we can. For example, the National Academies and I have been telling the community for at least the last 9 months or so that the decadal survey white papers would be due in May. As a result of the pandemic, and in order to give people more time due to the impact of COVID-19, the National Academies recently flipped that due date for white papers by approximately 6 weeks to July 4th. I know that there are some in the community that were relief and had that flipped further. But I want to communicate to folks that we've really now pushed the schedule to the limit that would allow us to meet the final report's delivery in March of 2022. And that date of March 22 was not picked arbitrarily. It's picked specifically because it allows the agency, it allows NASA to use the results of the decadal as input into the fiscal year 2024 budgetary process. And if we miss that milestone, if the delivery comes too late, we'll have to wait a whole another year before we can incorporate the decadal priorities into that budget process. And so I hope that folks can understand what the rationale is and the motivation for trying to keep to this schedule. By slipping the due date, we're already placing additional stress onto the folks at the National Academies to try and accommodate and compress the schedule. And of course, they're also experiencing the same stresses as everybody else. So we're really doing our best to try and keep the survey going forward so that we have that important direction for our community for the coming decade. I know there's been concern that the pandemic may impact participation on the panels themselves. And I want to encourage folks in the community to make sure you visit the National Academy's website, where you have an opportunity to look at and comment on proposed panel members before they're finalized. It gives you an opportunity to provide feedback. And if you feel that those panel members are not representing an important dimension of our community, there is that mechanism to provide that feedback. So I encourage people to participate as best they can, to write the white papers, to serve on the panels, and to provide feedback as frequently as possible. So thank you.
Thanks, Lori. I think any of the division directors could take the next one, but maybe Paul and or Nikki could talk about how the virtual review panels seem to be working.
Yeah, this is Paul. I'll be glad to take that. So they're working very well. We've run about a half a dozen, actually across SMD, we've run more than a dozen virtual panels, and we've solicited feedback from the panel members. All the panel members think that the quality of the reviews has not been reduced because they're being executed virtually. We've learned a lot about how to do virtual panels efficiently. One thing we've learned is that it takes more time to do them, and we can't work as many hours a day because of the time zone differences. On the other hand, the panel members aren't traveling a day on the front end and back end, so I think it balances out well. With virtual panels, people can take time off to tend to their at-home requirements if they're taking care of kids and still serve on a panel. And so we've learned a lot. The quality is not impacted, and almost certainly we'll be carrying these lessons learned on how to do virtual panels into the post-pandemic days.
Yeah, and I'll just add on to that for Helio, exactly the same thing. And I would just like to actually thank the people that are on our review panels for their flexibility and understanding, and the fact that, as Paul said, we've had some real challenges with time differences. But even when we had panels with people from Europe all the way to people in Hawaii, everybody just really was very flexible and just dealt with whatever time they needed to be available. And so I really just want to thank the community for their support in doing this, because we couldn't do it without such outstanding reviewers.
Okay, thanks. Thomas, this maybe is for you. How
what is the latest forecast on how COVID will affect budgets this year and the next fiscal year?
So thanks for the question. At this moment in time, the information level that we have is the same that we have seen out there, which is that the House and the Senate have passed bills, some modest amount or small amounts, depending on which one has affected NASA, in the sense that some of the funding that I talked about it was supported by extra money. The process going forward at this moment in time, I don't have any other information than is out there, namely that we're going through budget activity like we do every year that is going to be put forward and for consideration on the Hill by House and Senate. So in other words, from the information we have right now, with all we know is there no massive changes one or the other way expected, up and down. Focused on is doing the best job we can, executing the program within the priorities that we have out there and issues that are arising newly. That's where we are right now. Needless to say, as we go forward, we're going to learn more about this. This is a new situation. There's no playbook we're following. We all are going through this together. That's it, great from me.
Okay, thanks, Thomas. Laurie, real quick, can you update us on the status of the decision for Europa Clipper launch vehicle and gate?
Yes, that's a very quick answer. There is no update. We are still, we all are directed by the law to use the SOS, and so we are required to follow the law, but we are actually looking at potentially other options if those were to become available.
Thanks, Laurie. Okay, I'm going to try to go through quickly several questions about different solicitations and selections and the timing of those. Nikki, is there an update on when heliophysics MIDEX Step 1 selections will be announced?
So I don't have a good update. I can tell you that we have continued to do all of the review. Indeed, that was our first one that we had to do virtually with about 2 days' notice. So again, thank you to the reviewers for their flexibility. But we are progressing with the selections, and we hope to announce reasonably soon in the next couple of months. And I'll just say that's pretty much the same for the heliophysics supporting research proposals, just so you don't have to come back to me.
Thank you. And the simplex mayo, is it expected to come out in September or October as originally planned?
So this is Lori, and we've been looking very carefully at budget considerations as well as looking at the schedules for discovery selections and the Dragonfly mission. And I can tell folks that the AO is certainly going to start to the right probably by several months. I'm not going to time today, but folks can know that it will certainly be moving to the right and not be coming out in September and October, more likely in the spring.
Okay, Paul, the NASA Astrophysics Data Analysis Program will not be solicited in 2021, is amended on April 3rd. Could you talk about that real quickly? Yes. So as we've been looking at the impacts of COVID, we've been trying to reduce the work on all of us. And we know that there'll be additional work next year as we recover from the pandemic and catch up on everything. By canceling ADAP for 21 and selecting twice as many proposals in 20, we know that with the same amount of work that people will put into writing their proposals, we can get twice as much money out to the community. We can tell twice as many people that their funding is assured for the next few years. And it will be at half the total work for writing proposals and reviewing proposals. The comment about there being a disproportionate impact on some members of our community is certainly significant. It wasn't something that we had in the front of our mind at the time we were trying to reduce work on the community. The COPAG has put out a community survey asking for input on the pros and cons of this choice of ours. and I will be having it discussed at the next meeting of the Astrophysics Advisory Committee, which is meeting at the end of June. And so those of you who want to comment on the pros and cons of this decision by NASA, please respond to that COPAG community survey and or contact a member of the Astrophysics Advisory Committee. Get your feelings in there so that we can have a discussion at that committee meeting.
Okay, thank you. We're a little over time, so we are going to wrap up now. Again, there's a couple different ways to re-access this information if you want. The charts are up at science.nasa.gov, and a recording of this will be posted there a little later this afternoon. And also, with a little bit of a delay, you'll be able to call and hear it at a phone number, which is 203-369-3252. Again, that's 203-369-3252. And as Thomas mentioned, we will keep doing these on a regular basis, and we look forward to meeting with you all again soon. Thank you.
Thank you for your participation on today's conference call. At this time, all parties may disconnect.
Muchas gracias a todos por su presencia en este foro. Bueno, ahora acaba de concluir la conferencia y bueno, no me quería ir sin darle las gracias. Muchas gracias a todos por haber estado siguiendo esta conferencia en retransmisión en vivo y directo con NASA y Caribbean University. Así que estén atentos en futuras eventualidades que estaremos compartiendo. Así que también un agradecimiento a NASA por permitirme hacer la retransmisión en vivo y directo a través de mi canal. Bueno, nos despedimos. Muchas gracias a todos y que tengan un excelente día. Que estén todos muy bien.